Sometimes a basketball game it's just more than a game. It turns into a duel, a story of one player who's supposed to stop a star, but then decides to become the star himself. We are breaking down an absolute thriller in Chapel Hill, where the entire script just got flipped, and a defensive specialist put on an offensive show for the ages. Okay, so to really get this story, you gotta start with one guy, Louisville's Michael Brown Jr. Coming into this game, he wasn't just playing well, he was on a completely different planet. Over his last 4 games, the man was shooting a ridiculous 59% from the field. That is just scorching hot. And it's not like this was a secret, right? The experts knew. They were calling him one of the most unstoppable scorers in the entire country. So for North Carolina, the game plan was simple. But man, was it going to be tough. Someone somehow had to slow this guy down. He was the #1 problem they had to solve. And that, right there, is the matchup. On one side, you've got the scorer, Michael Brown Jr., who's on this historic tear. And on the other, you've got the guy whose whole job is to be the stopper, North Carolina's defensive ace, Seth Trimble. So this was set up to be a classic offense versus defense battle. At least, that's what we thought. And that brings us to the first huge twist in this story, the unexpected takeover, because something absolutely wild happened. The guy who was sent in to stop the show, well, he decided to steal it instead. The game just completely pivoted in a way that nobody saw coming. That's right, Seth Trimble, the defensive guy, decides that the best defense is an unstoppable offense of his own. He wasn't just trying to contain Brown, he started attacking over and over, and they just had no answer for him. I mean, this isn't just a surprise for a player known almost entirely for his defense. This is just mind-blowing. You could literally hear the shock in the announcers' voices. They were baffled. This was not in the scouting report. A defensive stopper, a role player, was suddenly looking like the most dominant offensive force on the court. It was a complete and total takeover. And it was how he was doing it that was just so awesome. I mean, he was doing it all. Slicing through the lane for layups, stepping back for smooth pull-up jumpers, and then just hammering down these athletic dunks in transition that made the crowd absolutely lose its mind. He set a new season high in points before they even hit the half. Just an unbelievable performance. But look, a team like Louisville, a player like Michael Brown Jr., they are not just going to roll over and quit. The second half turned into an absolute slugfest. It was just a classic game of runs, with both of these teams trading haymakers. Just when you thought one team finally had control, bam, the other would come roaring right back. The lead was just changing hands constantly, and the tension in that arena was, wow, it was electric. You just knew this thing was coming down to the wire. And the momentum swings were just dizzying. North Carolina rips off an 8-0 run and grabs the lead. Then Louisville hits back-to-back monster threes to pull it right back. Then UNC gets a huge defensive stop that leads to a slam, and the whole place just erupts. It was nonstop. And just when you think, maybe, just maybe, Trimble's takeover is going to be enough, guess who shows up? Michael Brown Jr. reminds everybody why he's the star. He starts hitting these clutch, defiant three-pointers with ice water in his veins, just willing his team back into the fight. He was not going away quietly. So just like that, we're right back to the duel. Every single time it felt like Trimble and UNC created a little breathing room, Brown would just slam the door shut. The entire game was hanging in the balance, and you just wondered, what's the next move going to be? And that brings us to the finish, because the final 90 seconds of this game were pure, unfiltered chaos. This is where games are won and lost, right here. Okay, try to keep up, because this gets nuts. With 90 seconds left, Trimble drives, but gets blocked. Huge defensive play. Then with about 45 left, Brown hits a soul-crushing three. It's madness. Then 12 seconds to go, Trimble gets fouled. He's got to make clutch free throws. But then, no way. Brown hits another dagger three with just 5 seconds on the clock. Just unbelievable shot making under pressure. But hold on. In the middle of all that insanity, let's not forget this moment. When Seth Trimble stepped to that free throw line with the entire game resting on his shoulders, he just calmly synced them both. And that got him to this number, 30 points. A career night for the defensive stopper in the absolute biggest moment imaginable. And so after all of that, after all the runs, all the heroics, all the clutch shots from both sides, it all came down to one final shot. A couple of seconds on the clock, a one-possession game. This is it. So let's break it down. Louisville has to inbound the ball. They get it in, the catch is made, but it's way out from the basket. There's no time to do anything but throw up a prayer, so this desperate long-range heave goes up in the air just as that final buzzer sounds. And for a second, everything just stops. And it's no good. The shot falls short, the buzzer echoes through the arena, and North Carolina survives. What an incredible, heart-stopping finish. So there's your final score, 77-74, an instant classic. And listen, Michael Brown Jr.'s late-game shots were absolutely breathtaking, but the story of the night, the key performer, that was Seth Trimble and his career-defining 30 points, no question. And that quote from the broadcast just nails it, doesn't it? He came into the game with one job, stop a star. But instead, he became one. On this night, he wasn't just some role player, he was the man. So it kind of leaves you with this thought, right? We all tuned in to see a superstar, and we definitely did. But what we also saw was his defender completely refused to be a footnote in his story. Instead, he stepped right into the spotlight and wrote a legendary chapter of his own. In a night built on a duel, what happens when the stopper decides to be completely unstoppable?